All right, Tougies, take episode 51.
Yeah,
the 51st
51
in a series of unlimited episodes.
Well, it's going to be an ending at some point, but I'm
That's
going to be
true.
morbid about it.
Yeah. Well, maybe it'll be one of those things where, like, after Siskel died of lung cancer, is like Roger Ebert gives it 2 thumbs up. It's like, oh, he had to use both his hands this time. So, yeah, no one thinks about that. It's like it used to be Siskel and Ebert give it 2 thumbs up. So that's a thumbs up from each guy. Now Roger's doing all he's doing all the lifting. It's fine.
So would you, if it's me, would you rename the podcast? Would it become like Deej's Discourse?
Oh man, I don't know. I think I'd call it Tougies Took.
Can we just end the show there? A minute and 10 seconds into it? Do we need to do the rest of this podcast?
I don't know, but I think that's a record for us getting a title down.
Oh my god.
That certainly beats. I was going to try and force in a fish joke and make the title Fish Marner, but I think this is fine.
Oh
I think Tougies Took's way better than Fish Marner. Well, speaking of dead folks, so today's hockey trivia is going to be a lot of early NHL stuff, but like basic early NHL stuff, nothing too crazy.
Okay.
And I figure it'd be nice to get back to hockey because there's not a lot of it.
Instead of Freeport, Maine facts.
Freeport, Maine facts is like, I hope they credit me on their pamphlets because they certainly got one.
They should. I'll try to, I'll make an appeal.
So here we go. Question number 1. Who scored the very first goal in NHL history?
Dick Clapper.
That'd be amazing. You got none of that right. It was Dave Ritchie.
Yeah.
He was a defenseman for the Montreal Wanderers.
Uh-huh.
Although technically, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he more filled the position of a rover on the team. But yeah, he opened their inaugural season, and it ended up being a 10-9 victory. Because I believe the other team's goalie didn't show up, is what it seems like.
We didn't have goalies at the time, and it was called ice rugby.
So here's a fun fact about the Montreal Wanderers. They had to withdraw from the NHL just a few weeks in because their home rink was destroyed in a fire, and the rest of the NHL redrafted all their players. So he actually ended up on the original Ottawa Senators, which I don't know who they eventually became, but that was what happened.
Nothing good.
Yeah, he could have used the Ottawa Firemen. So here's a question. Who was the very first commissioner in the NHL?
King Clancy.
So I love this. It's Gary Bettman. He was the first commissioner.
I was going to say that sarcastically.
Yeah, I really wish you would have. I was kind of hoping you would. That was because, like, I mean, anybody else is just going to be, it's like, I don't know, is a guy named after a trophy? Like, that's the only other possible answer.
I was going to say Gary Bettman Sr. I really should have done it.
Which he technically is. Yeah, did you know that before that, the NHL had a president? And it was Gil Stein. And so they decided, the owners decided to put in a puppet government. That's essentially what happened. They wanted to modernize their views. Okay, so this one's, I'm pretty sure you'll know this one. This NHL player, he played for the Chicago Blackhawks, won several goal-scoring titles, several MVPs. He was known as the Golden Jet. Who am I talking about?
Bobby Hull.
Bobby Hull is correct.
Allegedly a horrible person. That was one of the weird things, by the way. Can I just have a tangent about this? Do you remember a couple years ago, like, word came out of like, oh, Bobby Hull's actually a terrible person. But then there was like no follow-up to that whatsoever.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened.
I don't know. I just, you let Bobby Hull be Bobby Hull, you know? There's no reason to There's no reason to dig up Grandpa's war chest. That is my stuff, you know?
Like, there were 2 women he was married to that accused him of abuse. And then, like, that was in the 80s. And then it got buried. And then, like, 5-6 years ago, it popped up again and then disappeared again. So, I don't know. It sure seems like he's a terrible person. But hey,
at the Chicago
Blackhawks have never employed a terrible person, though. So I believe Bobby Hull.
He is a complicated figure, though. I do feel like that, yes, there have been several alleged abuse incidents. But also, do you know why Bobby Hull retired from hockey?
I do, actually. And it was because he had a car accident, right?
His girlfriend was in a car accident, and she needed somebody full-time to take care of her. So, you know, everyone used to be a piece of shit. That's, slick back hair, tiny little jean shorts. Chicken spaghetti at Ciccolini's. So what was the first NHL team to ever win back-to-back Stanley Cup titles? And I'm going to give you a hint. It's not the Canadiens.
Yeah, I figured it wouldn't be. I figured that was too much of a toss-up. Goodness. Can I get the years, or is that cheating?
1921. We have already mentioned them at one point today.
So it's got to be the Ottawa Senators, then.
It is the Ottawa Senators. In 1921 became the first ever 2-time back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. Probably because they had Dave Ritchie.
And then the NHL said, you know what? Actually, our first year is 1924.
One
Screw you, Ottawa.
One-time all-time NHL scoring leader, Dave Ritchie. For about 5 minutes.
The first and the best.
All right, so let's see. So this was really interesting to me. When I believe it was 1918, they got rid of the forward pass rule, right? You used to only be able to pass backwards. So what year did they get rid of offsides?
God, I wish 2021. Can we get rid of that horrifically outdated rule? Jesus Christ. I mean, is it a trick question? Okay, if it's a trick question, I'm going to say never.
It's not a trick question. It's more of a fun fact question. Like, how long? Think of it this way: how long since they were allowed to do forward passes was the NHL like, this could be a problem?
So, what was the year that they got rid of the forward pass?
I believe it was 1918, but that's just from my memory. I didn't.
So 1919. Like immediately, they're like, nope, we made a mistake.
My favorite part is this is 1930, so it was like 12 years.
Jesus.
You were allowed to cherry pick.
Which again, so what's your opinion on that? I want to know. Do you think, because obviously like in the NHL, in our lifetimes, they got rid of the 2-line pass. Are you on board with the idea of getting rid of offside? Because I am 100% on board for it. I think it just naturally opens the game up a little bit more, makes it faster. And, sure, it's an extra challenge for the defense to have to pay attention, but I like the concept of it. I like the risk reward of maybe having somebody just kind of hang out. And in that way, sure, you could risk the icing, but just send the puck down ice and have your fastest player chase it down and get a quick zone entry. I like the idea of that. I think it adds more strategy than what you currently have now by having offside be a thing.
So I think there's like a couple huge changes it makes, right? Like, one, it completely changes how you carry the puck in.
True.
You're essentially, in one way or another, going to be dumping the puck on every single zone entry.
Depending on the circumstances, but yeah, that's true.
You kind of have to relook at icing again, because what if is it still icing if it's just like a missed pass, Yeah, because the intention wasn't there. The intention wasn't there just to clear the puck out. And then I think it kind of becomes like, I think what actually ends up happening, right, is after 2 or 3 years, hockey becomes a game of 2 forwards with 3 defensemen that are essentially playing in the neutral zone. And it, like, I don't know. I mean, at some point, I think we should cover this, like, because I think it's a very interesting part of hockey history that we should talk about, because it almost never gets mentioned. But in a weird way, it almost becomes similar to, I don't know if you're familiar with the Swedish torpedo system, but that was when they had that that basically 3D 2-forward setup that they won the world championships with that one weird year.
It's an interesting conversation.